Same directors, staff. Regional District Board meeting Wednesday, March 24th. Confirmation of quorum.
Yes, you have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. I'll call the meeting to order. Can I have you drop the
Brenda Lees. Move adoption.
Second.
Second Director Adams, I think that was.
Wally it was.
Sorry, Director Wally, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all questions, anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. No petition delegations. Can I have adoption of the minutes? Director Kerr, thank you. Seconder.
Baker.
Wally.
Director Wally, thank you. Any errors or omission?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I believe that Director Cornfield voted against the motion regarding the sewage outfall at Stories Beach, and it's not recorded. His opposition wasn't recorded. I don't know if that matters.
The CAO?
I'll refer to Tom there. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to bring that up now so that we make sure we're on the right one. So, okay, that came later on, I believe.
You just passed it.
Sorry. There we go.
You just went past it.
So, Mr. Chairman, what we're currently showing in the minutes is that Director Anderson only was opposed. So if that is an error, then we can certainly make that correction.
Great. Director Cornfield, you want? Charlie's not with us yet?
I do not believe Director is with us yet.
Okay.
He's on. He's just muted. There he goes.
Thank you. Sorry, guys, I had trouble connecting. Wanted to hook me up to the January 27th meeting.
Oh, okay. So, Director Cornfield, a question from Director Lee is she thought you voted opposed to the Crown Land referral.
The Crown Land referral.
To
For the Cloeches outfall.
Oh, the outfall?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Or
Okay.
no, I didn't. I'm in favor of the outfall.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
There we go. Cleared up. Thank you. Thank you, Director Lee.
Thank
Anything
you.
else? Anything else in the minutes? Seeing none, I'll call question. Anyone opposed? Carried. Any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none. Public considerations. No notice of motions. Chair's report. Couple quick things. Just got an email this morning from Richard Truman from the Geoscience, just thanking us again for our support for them. And I just had a quick question, Director Kerr. How did you do on collecting wood for the project?
Is he on board? Yeah, he is.
Director Kerr?
If I can, Mr. Chair, because I was on part of the First Nations there, Director Kerr has been successful in collecting all the wood for the piece of art, and says it's going to be on schedule for delivery at our April 14th meeting.
Fantastic, thank you. Excellent, that's all I got for my chair's report. Motion received, my verbal report.
Move receipt. Wally.
Director Wally, thank you.
Second, Cornfield.
Anyone opposed? Carried. And consent calendar under committee chair reports, Electoral Area Service Committee. Motion to receive the report.
Motion moved.
Director
Second.
April,
Second.
Evans.
Director Evans, thank you. Anything to add, Seal?
Nothing, Dad?
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, question on the receipt. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item 2, Strathcona Gardens Commission. Draft minutes for March 10th. Motion received.
Motion receipt, Baker.
Second.
Baker and Director Lee. Killed. Any discussion? Seeing none on receipt. Anyone opposed? Being carried. No reports. Under staff reports, development variance permit for DV 22C20 Crombie. Motion to receive the report.
Move receipt.
Second.
Move receipt.
Director
I'd
Kerr,
like to speak
Director
to
Lee.
the,
Anything to add, CL?
Nothing to add from staff, but I think the director may have a motion.
Good. Anything else on receipt? Hearing none, I'll call question on receipt. Anyone opposed? All that carried. And Director Abram.
yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Leach was going to have something for Edie to put up on the board. Is that
Yep.
prepared? I can't see from here. Okay, so I'm not sure what it says. Okay,
I'll read it out for you. It says that a development variance permit, DV 2C20 Crombie, as attached in the staff report dated December 24th, 2020, be approved, and that the corporate officer be authorized to issue the permit.
so
Second.
this is the one that goes, thank you. And this is the one that goes back to the January 7th meeting or whatever.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Okay.
yeah,
So moved by
I
Director
would
Abram.
move that.
Okay, and the seconder,
Wally.
Director Wally, thank you. Anything to add, Director Abram?
No, I'd just like to see this move ahead as quickly as possible. These people are being extremely inconvenienced by the timeframes with lawyers, et cetera. So this is great. I thank you very much, Dave, for putting it forward to Edie.
Okay, thank you. And Director Anderson, do you have your hand up?
I do, thank you. I'm just wondering if this motion that we're seeing in front of us is at this point a recommendation from staff because legal issues have been resolved, or whether this is Director Abram bringing this forward from a month or two ago without resolution of the legal issues.
This is the director's motion.
So then I will repeat myself a little bit from EASC, given that we're here at Board of Decision Making. I'm incredibly sympathetic to this situation and think that the zoning bylaw, which is now over 30 years out of date, is 3 decades, 2 decades beyond needing updating. And that we're going to see more and more and more of these situations where people need to live in a way that is relative to how the community has changed over the course of a lifetime or a generation. However, this,
I ask for,
I'm
please.
still speaking, Mr.
Hang
Chair.
on, Director Anderson, point of order has been called, Director Abram.
The issue is going way off track to a much, much broader issue that is going to be discussed at some point in the next year. So I don't believe we need to waste our time talking about it now. This is the motion that's before you. And it's up to you to decide whether I'm correct or incorrect.
Okay, thank you. Director Anderson, I'm going to give you some lenience here. I'll give you a minute so to carry on.
Yeah, I actually think the context is critically important because I think if the zoning bylaw would have been a little bit more updated, that this would be absolutely permissible. I expect that the community would support this kind of thing. And I would like to support this kind of thing. But given that, as far as I understand, it's perhaps legally questionable and goes against the zoning bylaw, I just can't in good faith do so. And I would love to do so.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Call question on the motion for elected area directors only. Anyone opposed?
Anderson.
Director Anderson's opposed. Hearing none other, call that carried. Thank you. Item 2, cannabis production and sale, Cortez Island.
Thank you, thank you, board.
Director Abram, thank you. Seconder,
Second.
Director Lee, thank you. And the CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just have Tom pull up the agenda here, switch it back from Edie for a sec. But on that, Mr. Chair, there isn't anything to add from staff.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, just lost it there, Tom. There we go.
Okay. So nothing from staff. Thank you. Any other discussion?
Yeah, just briefly, Mr. Chair. This is, again, a long time coming. We've got zoning bylaw updates for cannabis production and sale in both areas C and D. And this is just wanting to come into alignment with the federal and provincial allowances that are over, I think, 2.5 years old now. So I'm just asking that a bylaw be prepared so that we can not criminalize otherwise legal behavior. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Anything else on receipt? Seeing none, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item B, bylaw be prepared to complete lawful cannabis production. Director Anderson, seconder.
Second.
Director Cornfield, thank you. Any further discussion?
I have a comment, Mr. Chair.
Director Wally.
Yeah, I recognize that federal provincial governments have legalized this. In my way of thinking, that doesn't make it right, so I'm opposed.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? See none, question on the motion. Anyone opposed? Director Wally. Anyone else? See none, carried. Item 3, Northwest Vancouver Island tsunami warning contract amendment. Motion received. Director Evans, seconder.
Second.
Sorry, who was that? I heard a seconder.
Over.
Thank you,
Cool.
Director Coburn. On receipt, CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Koopman will speak to this.
Cool.
To the regional board, the request in front of you is to extend our contract with Northwest Hydraulics Consultants so they can have some more time to process and incorporate the data for our complex Northwest Vancouver Island tsunami mapping project. This request has been approved by the Union of BC Municipalities, who's the overseer of the grant, which is funding this project. However, in order to amend the contract and extend it, we require the board's approval, and that's my request in front of you today.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions? Seeing none. On receipt, anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. On to B, the chair corporate officer be authorized to execute, modify the contract. Director Adams, Director Coburn, thank you. Any other discussion? On the motion, anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item 4, Area D Quadra Island Wildfire Planning Contract. Motion to receive the report.
Move receipt, Wally.
Director Wally, seconder.
Second.
Director Lee, thank you. The CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Koopman will speak to this as well.
Thank you.
Through the chair to the regional board, you saw at our last board meeting that the regional district successfully received over $200,000 from the 2020 Community Resiliency Investment Grant. A portion of that was allocated to updating the wildfire plans for Quadra Island and Electoral Area D. We've since put out a competitive tender to secure a contractor for this process, and the results are in front of you with the recommendation of BA Blackwell.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions to Mr. Koopman?
Director Lee has a question.
Director Lee, go ahead.
I thought when this was originally proposed that it involved areas C and B, not D. D already did a wildfire plan and for the northern part of Area D, and then we have done wildfire plans and exercises in the Oyster River area led by Oyster River Fire Department and covered by the Comox Valley Regional District. So I wonder if it's a typo that D was put in there.
Go back to Mr. Koopman.
Through the chair to Director Lee, the intention of this grant was always to update the wildfire plans for Quad Island and Area D. Area D does have a wildfire plan from 2014. However, the province considers any wildfire plan over 5 years of age to be out of date, and therefore we can no longer use the existing plan to justify further wildfire funding for Area D.
Okay, thank you.
I just thought it was Cortez at the time.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? See none on receipt. Anyone opposed? See none carried. Item B, the contract of electrical area D and Quad Island Community Wildfire Plan project be awarded to BA Blackwell and Associates, and the chair and corporate officer be authorized to execute the contract.
So moved.
Director Abram,
Abram.
seconder. Any seconder, please.
Wally,
Director Wally, thank you.
Second.
Any further discussion? See none. Anyone opposed? See none carried. Item 5, wood chipping, community investment grant. Motion received the report.
Move receipt.
Good. Director Colburn, seconded. Thank you. Any questions or the CEO or anything to add?
Mr. Koopman again, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Goodman.
So through the chair to the regional board for some background on this. On October 7th, 2020, you granted staff permission to apply for the Community Wildfire Resiliency Investment Grant. And as part of that staff report, it included a list of items from UBCM clarifying how the regional district is to use that funding if our eligible items do receive funding. And part of that letter included that any wood chips that are chipped under the free disposal program are considered a fire hazard and cannot be returned to residents. I mentioned that on February 26, we found out that we received over $200,000 from this grant application. Since then, we've received correspondence from some residents on Cortez Island asking if the regional district would be willing to request an amendment to this application to allow the wood chips to be returned to the residents. This takes you to the correspondence in the staff report in front of you. UBCM on page 3 there has stated that due to previous correspondence between BC Wildfire and themselves, it is unlikely that a requested amendment would be successful. But on page 2, you'll also see UBCM has stated that any request to amend our grant application must come from the regional board yourselves. So therefore, staff, we're bringing this item before the board for your consideration, with a list of possible options as indicated on the page 1 of the staff report.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Director Anderson and Abram. Director Anderson.
Thank you. And I don't know if Mr. Koopman is aware, but at the solid waste meeting, we had a long and thorough discussion about precisely this matter, and wrote a letter from the solid waste board about wanting this policy to be changed. And I think that was unanimous. Certainly a lot of the other rural areas, not just Cortez, have the same interest and concern. So I'm interested to know from Mr. Koopman of the option 1 and option 2 presented, because I would certainly like to pursue every avenue possible to have chips stay on the island. And I know that I'm not alone on this board in wanting that. Which of those options do you think would be better received and more likely to render a positive amendment?
Koopman.
To Director Anderson through the chair, apologies, but I don't feel comfortable commenting on how UBCM may look at these possible options.
Okay.
Fair enough. I wonder if there then isn't some combined approach. I just put out there for discussion. I'm not putting a motion, but that says ultimately we would love the UBCM policy to be eliminated. However, in the absence of that, we're looking for an amendment for the SRD specific case at this time. That might be an approach. Thank you.
Yeah, well, we discussed that. We need a motion on the floor then for that. Director Abram.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was torn between option 1, option 2 in the report. I think that the question about what would be most agreeable to UBCM. UBCM usually goes along with existing policies, but I think if we were to request option 1 with a fallback position of, that said option 2, then, we'd cover both bases. But I think that the first one is the one that would be the clearest for UBCM. We want it eliminated. And I think if that passed, we would not then be having to go to the fire commissioners beforehand. It would just be a policy of UBCM, and we can move forward. But I would, the motion that says option 1.
We're on receipt. We're still on
We're
receipt.
on receipt. Okay, when we finish, could I have a subsequent
Joe? Rick Cornfield.
question on receipt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Question on receipt?
We got another speaker, Director Abram.
Yeah, I'm just
Sorry.
throwing my 2 bits worth in here. I think that there's valid reasons for both sides, of the equation. In some cases, you're going to need those removed in order to do your wildfire abatement or your potential risk lowering, and you're going to need those removed. In the other cases, it makes sense that the chips be left on site. It saves cost, etc. So I think I would disagree with option 1. I think it should be on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else on receipt? I'll call question on receipt. Is anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. And Director Abram, do you have a subsequent?
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'm taking wise counsel of Director Cornfield, who's certainly well acquainted with wood chips in his former life. I would suggest that I would move that we do option 2, and that way there will still be some oversight. That would most likely be Mr. Koopman, who would be asked by UBCM to check it out to see if it's being done properly, and he would, of course, give us
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so the motion right now is for option 2.
Second.
Option 2.
Okay. I'll go to Edie. Do you need more to write down than that, Edie?
We have option 2 in the report,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. So option 2 has been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item 6.
Mr. Chair,
I'll move receipt.
another subsequent?
You want another
Chair?
subsequent?
Yes, please. There was another comment that we could request a conference call with UBCM, and I think that might be appropriate for us to have a conference call with a few people here.
Please
from
put your motion on before discussion.
Okay, so I'd like to move that. I would like to move that we have a conference call with UBCM staff and our staff, being John Koopman, and the directors from area B and C.
Okay, and Director Coors, a second.
I'll second that. And Mr. Chair, I think if Director Abram turned his video off, he'd sound a little better.
Yeah. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Director Kerr seconded. Is there any other discussion? All questions, anyone opposed? Carried. Item 6, Tuscona Gardens Recreate Program.
Move receipt.
Director Adams, second by
Second.
Director Lee. Thank you. The CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nothing to add.
Cool. Any discussion? Seeing none on receipt. Call questions. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item B.
I'll move B that we award to HCMA for the Recreate project.
Thank you.
Second.
Director
Second,
Kerr.
Director Evans.
Director Evans, a second that. Thank you. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Director Adams.
I just want to thank our city staff on the great job that they have done with the Recreate project. Really, really pleased to see the award to HCMA, who we have been working in partnership through the conceptual design process, and just really encouraged as to how this is moving along. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Adams. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item 7, non-medical cannabis retail store application. Motion to receive report.
Move receipt.
Director Lee,
Lee.
second. Need a seconder. Director Colburn.
Second.
Thank you. And the CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is our second or third stab at this, and the report is quite self-explanatory, but looks like the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch want a further resolution from the board to support this application. So that's what you have before you.
Thank you. Anything discussion on receipt? Seeing none, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item B is Liquor Cannabis Regulation Branch be advised that the
I would-
SRB recommends.
I would
Sure.
make item B with one minor amendment, and that I would add the words after the word advised, so that the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch be advised in writing that the SRD board recommends the issuance of non-medical cannabis retail
Okay,
store
that's a lot.
license.
Hang on.
Mr. Chair, like, do you have that written out? That's
It's
too
just
much
the
to read.
same motion with the
Oh.
words in writing after the word advised.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
So,
Thank you.
okay.
Yeah.
So she's just adding in
in writing.
in
In
writing.
writing. Yeah, thank you.
I'll take that just as a friendly data then. Okay. Anyone opposed?
Wally's opposed.
All these opposed? Anyone else? Seeing none? Call carried. Item number 8, Strengthen Community Service Program Grant Opportunity. Director Evans moves it. Second by
Second.
Director Kerr, thank you. And the CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excuse me. Renee will speak this for us.
Good afternoon, Chair Unger and Board of Directors. Last month, this grant became available through UBCM, and it's designed for local governments and Treaty First Nations to apply. It is a one-year fund to address homelessness that's been intensified by COVID-19. The funds are available based upon population size, and the timeline to apply is quick with a deadline of April 16th. Funding is available in 4 theme areas: improving health and safety for people experiencing homelessness, reducing community impacts, improving coordination among service providers, and increasing community capacity and skills of those working with homeless populations. The Campbell River and District Coalition to End Homelessness invited the City of Campbell River, the SRD, social and health providers, and the business improvement area to collaborate on a working group to discuss a potential grant application. Stephanie Hendrickson with the coalition has facilitated a few early meetings with members of the working group who have signed on so far to discuss what services are currently available, which services could be enhanced, and how to address the impacts on both service providers and the community. Members of the working group are reaching out to organizations in Campbell River and within the region to see where there's an opportunity to increase capacity and expand services. These ideas and themes will be fine-tuned over the next 2 weeks to ensure they meet the grant requirements and provide appropriate supports and services. As of today, there are concepts in all 4 grant themed areas. The enthusiasm to collaborate to address issues, improve coordination, and provide support for those experiencing homelessness is high. And as outlined in the report, we're looking for guidance to determine the level of participation from the SRD.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions? Director Anderson?
Thank you for this great initiative, and I'm just curious to know the extent that rural areas will be able to participate, and just to advise that there is a working group here on Cortes Island right now trying to tackle this and looking at how to seek funding for like a housing strategy and implementation plan. We don't face homelessness in the same way that you see on the city streets, but there are a lot of people very, very unstably and vulnerably housed. And so would just be honored to be able to participate or provide information to your working group in any way I can. So I'm looking if staff might be able to let directors know how to connect up the point staff people working on this application with community organizations working on this in our areas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, if I can, Mr. Chair, just to add a little comment to that, I think what we're looking for, as I understand it, the City of Campbell River has a member on this group, and the SRD is looking to see if there's interest from the SRD to appoint a member on this group. So what would happen is the group would get together and discuss the issues that they want to make the applications towards, kind of make an executive decision within that group that's represented by the SRD and the City of Campbell River, and then bring that recommendation to the April 14th board, as the submission has to be made within a couple days of that. So that's kind of the timeline template that we're looking at, and seeing if, again, the SRD wants to appoint someone to that committee.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Oh, thank you for that. And I would certainly support us appointing somebody to that committee. And my question is just further to that, would directors then liaise through that point person to give input to the committee through staff? Just what would that mechanism be as quickly as possible?
I think that sounds reasonable, yeah.
So he's saying yes, that's how it would work.
Yeah, yeah.
Through
Okay.
staff or the rep?
Through the director rep, yeah, if
Okay.
the SRD appoints one here. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Director Cornfield and Dahl. Director Cornfield.
And Abram.
Oh, and thank you, just right, Abram.
You can let Director Dahl go before me.
Okay, Director Dahl, go ahead.
I just wanted to nominate Director Kerr when we get to that.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, now I can go then. I think in the report it's very clear. If the SRD makes the application, we're talking about $1.2 million potential that can be brought in. When we discussed it as a city, looking at our max would be like 450,000. So I think that this initiative ties into a number of other SRD initiatives that we have, and like the Community Health Network. And I think that it's behooves us to make the application through the SRD to be able to tap into as much money as possible, and also that the SRD should play a significant role in making this happen. So I would support both the appointment of a staff person as well as a director.
Okay, thank you. And Director Abram.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm totally in support of number 8 in general, and very pleased that we're going to get some sort of funding. But I think that Director Anderson's comments, although they ring true for Quadra Island also, they do not fit in this group as it sits. I think they're going to do nothing but confuse the matter. We're talking about homelessness, ending homelessness. The homelessness issue was being shifted to people that are having a hard time finding housing, which is a completely different, is there rental housing? Are there houses that are affordable? Those kinds of things. That's a different matter. This is about homelessness, and I think we should stick to it and try and focus and try and help end homelessness. And if we have to do another, program like this for the other matters, that's totally appropriate. But
Okay.
I do not think it's appropriate to do what is being suggested by Director Anderson.
Okay, thank you. And I got Director Evans.
Thank you, Chair. And I too think this is a great opportunity for the SRD, not only just to leverage the grant funding that would enable us to apply for 1.2 million, but I think what was earlier in the staff report and commented on is that what we're finding in our communities is there's a lot of diversity amongst the service organizations and the well-meaning groups that are working across our region, but this is really going to enable a more coordinated effort, which is what we've been asking for a long time. So I think the timing of this grant is also significant in being able to achieve some of the goals have already been identified with, again, these diverse groups, but the fact that we're going to bring across the board opportunities for there to be representation from a broad number of individuals is going to have a great impact. And I too had sent in, we weren't on 8B yet, but I too have sent in support for Director Kerr.
Okay, thank you. I've got Director Anderson Davis, so I'll go Director Davis first for first time speaking. Go ahead, Director Davis.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, we were, as the Village of Tassos, were looking at applying for this, and from the terms of reference, it seemed like we didn't qualify, so we haven't applied directly. In our region, I mean, it seems that the homeless issue is really specific to Campbell River. And I'm wondering if Campbell River is applied directly and whether this is the appropriate form to apply for this.
Mr. Chair, I can answer that. So the City of Campbell River has not applied, as Director Cornfield has pointed out. If the application comes from the regional district, there's almost 3 times more money available. So what the intent here is to get a representative, which I believe we have in a working group from the City of Campbell River, and also 1 or more from the regional district. And as Director Anderson pointed out, those directors can feed into the to who's ever appointed on this on issues that maybe like Tassos has. They can bring that to the working group. They can see if that fits within the application, juggle all the things they have, and bring back a recommendation to the SRD board on the 14th.
Okay, thank you. That's good to hear, because if it's possible to help us, that'd be great. We certainly have a severe poverty issue here, just not a homeless issue.
Okay, thank you, Director Davis. I'll go with Director Kerr, and then I still have Director Anderson for a second time. Director Kerr.
Thank you, Chair. And Campbell River's problem with homelessness is definitely a regional issue. I mean, we are the hub for the region, and we do experience regional issues in Campbell River. With these grants that become available, especially short notice ones, that quite often they're short-term reactions to those grants. And but what I'm really looking for on this is some long-term sustainable solutions that can come out of it, long after the grant funds are completed. So hopefully this can really kick off some good projects in the Campbell River and region.
Thank you, Director Kerr. I don't see any other first-time speakers, so Director Anderson, go ahead.
Thank you. I'll refrain from the debate further about vulnerably housed or unhoused, but I do think if there's a regional approach that can be taken, that'd be fantastic, and to meet the needs throughout. And my question through to staff, if I might, is I remember a few years ago there was some discussion about potentially creating a regional housing service, and there was, remember Libby King from the Health Network presented some work that had been done in the Comox Valley area. Can we anticipate an update from staff on that at any point, and might this feed into that work?
I think so. We'll chat with Libby and the Health Network, but yes, I'd say that's fair.
Okay, thank you.
That'd be great. There was some good enthusiasm there. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have Director Adams.
Thank you, Chair. The regional committee that Libby is now back on after her leave is actively meeting with the Coalition to End Homelessness and other organizations. But I couldn't agree with Councillor Kerr more in that, it seems to be every year there is the Flavor of the Month grant that comes out, which has limited criteria and limited capacity and doesn't have any ongoing sustainable model. And I think that's where we all need to really advocate to the province that doing these short-term funding grants is a nice to do and kind of checks off some boxes, but we need permanent funding for long-term permanent solutions.
Thank you, Director Adams. And Director Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to put this question through the chair to whoever could answer it. Do we have any idea of the extent of the homelessness numbers in Campbell River at the moment? And I agree with Director Adams that these, small grants, and $1 million isn't very large if you're talking about building housing for people. I mean, we could be looking at a $60 million, $80 million project to build, and it doesn't talk about the support networks that are needed to sustain people in that housing. And we only have to look to the south end of the island to see that just providing a home is not the total answer. People in Victoria that are homeless are being kicked from park to gymnasium to park to gymnasium. I mean, there's got to be more than just, there's got to be a plan, a comprehensive plan that doesn't just include a roof over your head, but includes support services to get people back on track.
Okay, so I think the question was,
what's the extent of the problem? And
does anybody know the numbers in Campbell River at this time? I'll go to CEO first.
Mr. Chair, I see Libby's on. She would be best, I think, advised to answer the question if she's capable to.
Sure. The latest numbers we have are from 2 years ago. 81 people reported as completely homeless in Campbell River. We did miss out on having our point in time count in 2020 because it was scheduled right at the very beginning of the pandemic. It was scheduled for April 2020. There'll be another count that's happening next month here in town. 81 is obviously like the low end.
Great, thank you.
That's the absolute homeless.
Super, thank you, Libby. And Director Kerr, do you have another question?
Yeah, just a final comment. Thank you, Chair. And I completely agree with Director Lee that just having a housing solution is not the final answer. A lot of the people that we're seeing are what I would consider hard to house. I think the root of a lot of that comes back to addiction and mental health. And I think we need to look at that just as much as housing issue. And that's where the solutions are going to come. And that's going to really require work with our senior governments.
Great, thank you. Okay, see no further questions. I'll call question on receipt. Anyone opposed? Carried. And Director Evans, you have a subsequent.
Thank you, Chair. I was just moving B, that the board appoint Ron Kerr as the representative to the Campbell River Coalition to End Homelessness Collaborative Working Group.
Second.
Second by Director Cornfield. So Edie, you've got the minor change in there? Yep. Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on the motion?
Yep.
Do you have a comment, Director Cornfield?
There, I just had to turn my hand on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This question through to staff. Have we appointed a staff person, or do we need to appoint a staff person to the coalition, or is that something that staff would undertake independentely?
So, Mr. Chair, Renee is on the working group, so yeah, you don't need to appoint a staff person.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Director Abram, you have a question on the motion?
No, sorry, I'm early for number 9.
Okay, thank you. I'll put you in the waiting queue there. On B, is there any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call question. Anyone opposed? Carried. And item C, that regional application for the community services program be prepared.
I would move the motion.
Director Cornfield and Director Kerr, thank you. Any other discussion? I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item 9, request for final assistance. Motion to receive the report. Director Abram, thank you. I do I have a seconder. Thank you. And do I have any discussion? Director Abram.
No, this is a group that I do fund as often as possible.
Okay.
They do get a lot of calls from Quadra Island and they respond very quickly.
Super. Thank you. Any other discussion on receipt? Seeing none, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. And item B?
Item B, I'd like to move $500 grant.
Thank you. Director Kerr seconded. Thank you. Any further discussion? I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Item 10, request for final assistance, electoral area D. Motion
Move
to
receipt of report.
Director Lee, do I have a seconder?
Wally.
Director Wally, thank you. And then CAO.
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call question. Anyone opposed?
I had a question.
Sorry. Oh, sorry, Director Davis, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just curious about the policy regarding electoral areas applying for grants to be applied to a museum within a municipality.
So if I may, Mr. Chair, so there is a grant and aid service that is funded by the electoral areas. So they're not applying for grant money. It is money within their electoral area budgets. And there is the legal authority for them to have groups, nonprofits, request assistance, and then the EAs grant that if they feel it's appropriate. So it's not an external grant, it's a grant funded within their EA budgets.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for Director Davis, thank you. Anything else on receipt? Call questions, anyone opposed? Carried. Item B, the board approved the grants.
Move the approval of items, all the grant items.
Thank
B,
Second.
C, D, B, oh, pardon me. 1, 2, and 3 be approved.
Thank you. And Director Abram seconded. Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item N, bylaws. Bylaw 425, Director Compensation Amendment. Motion to receive the report.
Second.
Director Cornfield, thank you. And I'll go to CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is just an amendment to the bylaw, as we're going to have a member of the Cayuga Checklisset First Nations start on April 1st. The first meeting will be the 14th, and this amendment allows them to be compensated in line with the member municipal director.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call receipt. Anyone opposed? Carried.
Move B.
Move B, Director Cornfield. Director Abrams seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call question. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item C.
Move C.
Move C, Director Evans.
Director Cornfield, Director Evans, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item D, bylaw 425.
Move D.
Director Cornfield. Director Adams, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Second bylaw 427, 2020 to 2024 financial plan amendment. Motion to receive the report.
Move receipt.
Second.
Director Lee. CEO.
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call question on receipt. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item B, move the bylaw 427, being a bylaw to amend the 2020-24 financial plan, be now introduced and read the first time.
Move
Move
first reading.
first. Second.
Dr. Wally, Dr. Lee, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item C, rules be suspended to be given second and third reading.
Move second and third, Wally.
Director Evans, thank you. Seconded. Any discussion? Call question. Anyone opposed? Carried. Item D, bylaw 427 being the 2020-24 plan being finally passed and adopted.
Move final adoption. Wally.
Second.
Wally, second by Director Cornfield. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'll be voting against the financial plan simply because the water rates are way out of line with what people pay for water in the whole of BC. It's off the charts, ridiculous, and I won't support the budget that contains those increases for water for Northern Erie D.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just for clarity, this is a 2024 financial plan. It's the year past. It isn't the current budget. It's just nothing more than a housekeeping amendment to the previous budget. It isn't this year's budget.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, it says 2020 to 2024 financial plan amendment.
Right. So we're in the 2021 to 2025.
Okay.
Oh.
No further discussion. I'll call question. Is anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Under O, correspondence, we have 5 items. Motion to receive all 5.
I'd like to pull number 4, please.
Second.
Can we pull 2?
Baker, and I heard somebody say they want to pull number 4.
Yeah, Wally.
Director Wally wants to pull 4.
Cornfield 2.
Okay.
Number 2.
Okay.
Move 1 and 3.
1 and 3 and 5.
Yes.
Okay. Seconder. Director Wally, thank you. Anyone opposed? Call carried. Item 2, Kemba River Area Recreation Trails. Motion received.
So moved.
Director Cornfield, Director need seconder.
Second. Davis.
Director Davis. And Director Cornfield.
Just very quickly, we referred it from the city to the regional district. When you look, we have a number of trails inside the city that connect in through to areas D and areas A. And I think it's important that those 2 areas are aware of the interest from the cycling clubs here in town. And because this is something we share, the Snowden demonstration forest is a prime example. Extremely important to the city of Campbell River, but it's an electoral area A. And I think it was just more to keep people informed of what's going on and who the players are.
Super, thank you. Any further discussion? On receipt, I'll call questions. Anyone opposed? Carried. And then we have item 4, internet speed study.
Move 4.
Director Wally, second.
Second.
Director
Question,
Colburn. And go ahead, Director Wally.
Yes, question to staff. Is there any advantage to us being a part of this study now that we're kind of taking a little different path?
Well, the impetus of this is, the issues that we're having. So we will participate in this. It's no harm, no foul, but I have more of an editorial in camera about it.
All right, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Colburn.
Thank you, through the chair. Just to Director Wally's comment, as a member municipality, we are participating. I actually had John Schmulin go into my computer the other day, and I am currently at a 24. So I think more fodder for the fire is great. Thanks.
Thank you. And Director Abram, did you have a comment?
Yes, I just wanted to say that I think it's extremely important that we insist that we are part of this study and provide all of the information that we mistakenly gathered.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion?
Davis?
Thank you, Director Davis. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just concur with Director Abrams on this. I find it really disingenuous that they're throwing these numbers around about 50 down and 10 up for TASIS because, well, I just did a test on mine and it's 6 down and 3 up. And I've talked to many people in the community who run these tests, and that's typical. So I really don't know where the data is coming from, and I believe it's incorrect. So I'm glad to see that they're looking into it.
Great, thank you. I'll just concur, same thing happening in Gold River. Not a problem, yeah. Okay, anything else? See none, I'll call question. Anyone opposed? Carried. No members' reports, nothing in management, no new business, no addendum items. Motion that we receive CEO and closed.
Mr. Chair, one thing.
Go ahead.
Director Abrams, sorry. Yeah, sorry, I just couldn't get the microphone to click on fast enough. On item 5, the Integrity Commissioner for local
We've already moved number 5.
Yep.
I realize that, but what I didn't get to ask, because it went in the block, was if we have received the letter as directors of what you respond to the Integrity Commission, and if we haven't, could we please?
CEO?
Well, if he's asking if we've received anything else, the answer is no to my knowledge.
Okay, thank you.
So that's not what I'm asking, is what was the response to the Integrity Commission? This was a response to the Integrity Commissioner.
Okay.
Well, I believe the board sent a letter. Like,
That's what I'm asking, is if the board sent a letter,
yeah.
we get a copy of that letter.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Everything lit up here. Do we have Director Coburn? Do you have a question? We're on close. We're ready to move to close.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to bring to the board's attention that we are just as kind of a verbal members report. Today there's a vaccination clinic happening in Zabalis, and between the efforts of FNHA, NTC, the National Tribal Council, and Island Health, this is just my guesstimate, but I'm going to say a significant percentage of everyone here in the Valley will be vaccinated today. So I'm just really celebrating the movement on that. Thanks for your time.
Super, thank you, Director Coburn.
Yay, yay, yay.
Director Cornfield, did you have your hand up, or are we ready to move to close?
I do have my hand up, and then I would move that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received regarding the closed session.
Thank you, John.
Second.
Director Lee, thank you. Question on receipt. Being none, opposed. Being none, carried. Item B, session B following the public.
Second.
Director Wally and Director Evans, thank you. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried. Motion to terminate.
So
sorry. Sorry, should this not go on for another hour? This is a little quick.
Hey, that's enough of that.
Brad's trying to get things organized here.
Termination, Director Baker moved termination. Second,
Wally.
Director Wally, thank you. Is anyone opposed? Seeing none, carried.